Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about showing relationships. No, not the lovey-dovey stuff that you see in the high school hallway. I'm talking about comparisons in writing. The first thing that you need to know about comparisons are how useful they are. They can help us choose between two important things. Like who's cuter, Zachary Levi or John Krasinski? This is a very tough decision, but through comparisons, we can make this useful. So we notice that they both have big ears, so that doesn't help us because I think big ears are adorable. But then I look closer and see John Krasinski's nose is a little bit bigger than Zachary Levi's. And then I realize, you know what? Zachary Levi is my guy. I figured that out through a comparison. They help us choose. Then, of course, they also help us get to know the unfamiliar. If I were, say, talking to you about League of Legends, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what League of Legends is, I would explain to you through comparison what it is. I would describe to you that League of Legends was World of Warcraft meets StarCraft. And they come together, they have a baby, and it's League of Legends. Perfect comparison, right? You understand exactly what I'm saying. Okay, you probably don't, because you're probably not a gamer, but just roll with me on it. It's a great comparison. Then, of course, they are used in everyday life. Selecting items to compare. They need to have something in common, just like relationships. You wouldn't want to date somebody you have nothing in common with, because there would never be anything for you to talk about. You need to have something in common. Just like you wouldn't compare Channing Tatum to Steve Buscemi. Pretty versus ugly, not that great of a comparison. But pretty versus pretty, now that would be a better one. Developing a comparison. Details. When developing a comparison, it is important to have adequate information and details. This will help the reader to know what's going on and paint a vivid picture in their mind through comparisons. They also help your reader create a vivid picture, like I said. If you turn to page 157 and read the two paragraphs, you will see a very good example of a comparison with vivid imagery. By looking at these two paragraphs, you see a big contrast, but they're still compared to each other. In the first paragraph, you think of a rich neighborhood like Rodeo Drive, filled with shopping malls, and everybody's happy and everybody's rich. And then in the second paragraph, they paint a picture of a ghetto, a place where you don't want to go at night and you probably are going to get mugged. So they did a great comparison here. They took two things that had similar attributes but were totally different and compared them. And they used details and vivid imagery to show you. I don't know about you, but I think I would like to live in the Rodeo Drive type scenario. Organizing comparisons. The block pattern. Basically what the block pattern is it's taking one thing, like this prom dress here, and describing it full on, what it is, why it's important, why it's not important, things like that. And then taking this prom dress and doing the same thing, but never overlapping the two. That is an effective way, but there's also another way, and it's called alternating pattern. In this one, I would say something good about the first prom dress, then say something good about the second prom dress, and then go back and forth until I've come to a conclusion on my decision of what I'm going to wear to prom. And then there's using an analogy. Now this is a special type of comparison, and it calls attention to one or more similarities, underlying two kinds of items that seem to have nothing in common. Important things about analogies: readers must know the familiar item, The item must be similar, and it must be original and not bland, as well as don't make long drawn out ones. If you follow these rules, you'll create great analogies. Questioning ethics. Through these questions, they will just be kind of thought-provoking to make sure that your comparisons are adequate and correct so they don't offend anybody. Ask yourself these questions. Have I avoided skewing one or both of my items in order to ensure a particular outcome? Make sure it's fair. Zachary Levi and John Krasinski both deserve a fair shot here. Are the items I'm comparing properly matched? And are my analogies appropriate? Make sure nobody gets offended. This is really important. Now I would like you to read the essay on page 162 through 163 and answer these questions. What significance is the phrase, the duties and the working conditions in the first paragraph? What pattern does the organizer use? And what is the strongest analogy that is used? Now, how do we write a comparison? Well, let's take a look. Well, first you have to plan. Identify the items for comparison, like here. Do I want a Siberian Husky or do I want a St. Bernard? Establish the purpose. Well, my purpose is I want to own a dog. Identify and analyze the audience. Okay, the audience I'm trying to talk to is myself. So, that's done. Next step. You need to brainstorm. Okay, so details for each comparison. Okay, a Siberian Husky is beautiful. It's very loyal. And is a sled dog. A St. Bernard, on the other hand, is a great loyal dog as well. It's bigger, so it'll be harder to house, and it eats a lot. Make some observation of the items if possible. Okay, so the Siberian Husky has blue eyes, and the St. Bernard has brown eyes. The Siberian Husky is black and white. The St. Bernard is brown, black, and white. Simple, right? Next step. Rough plan or a table. Create a table laying out points of comparison. So the things I just planned with and brainstormed with, I'm going to lay out into a nice little table to see which one I like more. And then you need to determine the pattern. Block or point by point. Now with this, I think I'm probably going to go point by point because they have a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. And doing block, to me, wouldn't be as effective. Create a rough draft. So, I need an introduction which establishes the purpose of the comparison. So, my purpose of the comparison is to find a dog that's right for me. Then the body, which develops each point of comparison with detail using the pattern. So now I'm going point by point. So I'll probably start out with how they look, what size they are, and how much they eat. Then conclusion. So I need to vary but reaffirm my main point. And then I'm all done. And then the next step is to revise. Re-brainstorm, come up with some new ideas, maybe that'll fit in better. Make sure everything does fit. Add additional similarities and differences, and cut points that don't fit. This is important because you need to make sure you're down to the straight point. I wouldn't want useless information like how often the one dog likes to have ice cream because I don't need that. The next step is to proofread. Make sure everything looks great because if it doesn't, things can go badly. I don't know if you guys know this. You probably won't see this because I'll edit this. This slideshow was not proofread very well the first time I went through it, but after proofreading it, now it's perfect. Thank you for listening.